Okay, I wanted to do something a little bit different for today's newsletter. Instead of sending you over to a YouTube video like I usually do, I want to make a Loom video instead and break down what we just talked about inside the newsletter in text. To be able to build this out for myself, it's sometimes hard for me to just read text and then understand exactly each step that I need to put into place. So I figured this would be helpful to look at the Lucidchart, see how you could set this up for your own business. This is going to be the foundation of what you should have set up, so that we can find those lost or hidden deals that are in your pipeline when it just gets stalled out or it goes cold and it just sits in some type of AE's name. Okay. So let's zoom in here a little bit and kind of go through this together. This is the process that we set up to recover that 2 million for one of our clients that we worked with. Really, first things first, you're going to have some type of web form up here. This is your contact us, book a demo, let's talk to an expert, something like this to get the ball rolling. Someone is raising their hand and saying, yes, I want to, test out your product or your service. Okay, great. When you have that, you typically want to have something like a web to lead set up if you're kind of early on in the business, and that will automatically allow you to push the deal over into your CRM, Salesforce, so you don't have to worry about it copy pasting from some type of email inbox and putting it into Salesforce. It's a bunch of wasted time and effort. A lot of typos happen that way. So have something set up to be able to connect it to your CRM. Like I said, web to lead form is what that's usually called. And you can also do this with things like Zapier, Make.com, and A&N. You can do some other automations there to be able to push this into Salesforce too, if you'd like to. After we do that, we're going to do best practices here, check to see if there's any type of duplicate. So we don't want to actually do anything if this lead already exists or this account already exists or something there is already inside of our CRM. We don't want to make this look like a brand new lead that's coming through and treat them that way, especially as you get more advanced. So as you go from that 3 million mark all the way to the 100 million mark, along the way, as you guys mature in the business, you're going to be setting up automations to welcome them to the company. Say, thank you for checking our service. Maybe you have some type of first time buyer discount type of thing. You don't want to always be offering that. And it's just kind of bad taste for the customer, for them to realize, actually, I just talked with you guys 2 months ago, and now you're sending me all this stuff to make it seem like I'm a brand new person once again. So we want to watch for those things, and duplicates will help us do that by checking to see if this person already exists. So best practice here is to do that. If it is a duplicate, we don't actually want to create a brand new lead for this, right? So we actually just want to do nothing there. If it is no, this is someone that hasn't come through, then we are going to create that lead in Salesforce, pretty self-explanatory. We want to assign this to a sales rep based on rules. So if you don't have rules set up, this is going to be stuff like your assignment rules. I have plenty of videos on my YouTube video about this, YouTube channel talking about this in different videos. This is going to be round robin most commonly. You might do something like territory based, and you might do something towards performance based as, again, you mature in your sales process. Now, that 3 million mark, round robin is really the easiest way to do that. If you're unfamiliar with that saying, it just means when a new lead comes in, let's pretend we have 3 leads. We're just going to evenly distribute through those 3 leads and just send 1 to rep A, 2 to rep B, 3 to rep C, and then just repeat that process over and over again. So it's really easy to keep things fair and just for everybody on the team. And then territory and performance based, as you grow and you have more and more sales reps, you can look into those 2 options, but have something set up so that you have a better shot at closing these deals and sending it to the right type of people to be able to call them and get a hold of them. Okay. After we do that, we want to send some type of instant notification. I like sending some type of mix of these. You could do all 3. You could do one of them. The most common that we see is something in Slack or Teams. And basically, hey, you got a new lead. Here's the notification. They get a Slack message personally to them or in a specific channel. And it'll say, here's the first name, last name, the phone number, the company, and a link to this inside of Salesforce that you can click on and go over there immediately. So that's a really cool way to do that. You could also set up an email notification along with the Slack. And you could even also ping them a notification inside of Salesforce if you prefer to do that. So when you log in that top right-hand corner, that little bell will actually show as red too. So a mix of the 3 is usually what we see, but by far most common is at least doing something in your Slack or Teams. Okay, after we ping them, let them know, then we want to create some type of follow-up task. So this one kind of gets missed, as people are a little bit smaller, like I say, towards that 3 million. We don't see this as often. Again, as you mature and you get more towards that 100 million, this is really where the bread and butter comes into place. This is really when you feel great about your scripting. You have a sales manager, you have several teams, you have territories. Okay, at this point, we want to make sure we also have follow-up tasks This is going to save a lot of time for the sales manager to not have to re-explain himself every single time you guys hire a new sales rep, or a new sales rep quits, you get a new one, you fire one, whatever the situation might be there. You want to make sure that this is really easy. So when you hire someone new, they can come in and they know exactly what they got to do at each stage of the sales process, as well as when they get a brand new lead. And we do that by creating follow-up tasks inside of Salesforce. So when lead comes in, boom, we're going to trigger an automation. And then on the right-hand side, typically is how I see it set up, you'll have activities. And that activity section is going to show us all the things we have to do in order to get this person created as an opportunity. So before we do that, here's all the stuff you got to do as this person is a current lead. You got to email them. You got to XYZ, right? Go through this demo with them. Make sure they say these things. So set this up. If you don't know those things, work with the sales team to figure that out if you're on the smaller side. Now, if you have a sales manager, you should know these things already. You just got to put it into an automation so it does it for you, okay? After we do that, the sales rep is going to obviously, hopefully, reach out very quickly. There is a study. I sent this over last week. You guys might have read it. But there's a study that MIT and HubSpot did, which says, they test all these lead responses essentially. And they said that the people that were able to contact the lead within the first 5 minutes were 100 times more likely to win that deal. And then they showed that 78% of customers ended up going with the person that called them first. So it's really, 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 really important, as we all know, to call these people almost immediately. As fast as you possibly can is the answer. And so we definitely want to make sure that we're sending all those notifications, have the follow-up tasks, so that your sales rep has the best possible chance of winning that business, okay? After we do that, we're basically making a decision here to see if the deal has progressed, all right? This is really where we recover. So all that stuff I talked above should just be hopefully how you're running things now. Maybe there's a few things in there you haven't done that you should add. From here, this is where we find that recovered pipeline. So has the deal progressed? If the answer is no, I'm using this as an example for 30 to 45 days. This might be different for every business depending on your size, right? If you're really small, 30 to 45 days is a really long time if you got one sales rep, two sales reps. At that stage of the business, you're going to want to do something probably far more quicker. Now, if you're larger, getting more towards the 7 enterprise type of feel, 100 million plus, okay, yeah, maybe we want to have some leeway and we go more in 30, 45 days. I still feel like that's a bit long, but you want to have obviously some leeway for PTO, and the deal cycle might take longer depending on what you sell. And you don't obviously want to pull this from the AE if they are actually progressing and doing things with it. And you got to kind of really pay attention to your deal cycle to make the best judgment call on that. So as an example, we are using the words 30 to 45, but please, think through that for yourself of what you should do here, okay? So after X amount of time, really, then we want to see, okay, they have not moved this from a stage. There's no notes, there's no activity. You may even have something where you could follow up with like your sales rep. You could send an email or a Slack message automatically to the sales rep or the sales manager and check on it before we do anything. That might be something that you could add here. And then let's just say nothing has happened. That, yeah, it's stalled, it's parked, no one's touched it. We don't know what's happening with it. Okay, perfect. In this situation, we want to move it to what we call the recycling queue. You can set up queues inside of Salesforce that basically are just places that we can assign those leads to. And then you can name those things whatever you want. We're going to name this one a recycling queue. And when we move the leads over there, what we're hoping for is that there's a BDR or marketing or an SDR, whatever you want to call them, can re-engage with this person. So another person gets another shot at this. It went cold with the last person for whatever reason. And now we're going to try to rework this lead. In a lot of these situations, what we find is that, again, as you get a little bit more mature and older, there's a lot of situations where the rep kind of gets comfortable with who they're working with. Maybe they don't have the best user adoption inside of Salesforce. There was maybe some fields that were missed that not filled out, and that didn't trigger some other automations that we had that made them see this as easily. Maybe they personally worked it and they just didn't have a good vibe on it, or the person told that person they didn't want to work with them. There's so many situations here as to why this may have been hidden and not really worked, or not put a ton of energy or effort into it. And so moving this to that recycle queue allows someone with fresh eyes to be able to take a stab at this. After we do that, that marketing, BDR, SDRs type of situation, again, depending on your business, smaller, maybe it's a little more marketing still. As you get bigger, it's probably BDRs and SDRs. They're going to re-engage with this person. After we do that, the lead is going to come back. We're basically deciding here, yes, Did they come back? Okay, great. Is this person an existing account or opportunity? This is very similar to when a lead comes in at the beginning, like I said. So usually in these situations, you're just treating what we see Salesforce as, okay, this person came in, it's a brand new lead. They filled out the book demo again, just created it as a new lead. In reality, this already has an account, a contact, an opportunity, and it's been worked before. Somebody actually was working this deal. We want to look for that match first and re-engage with that person. That is going to avoid that situation I talked about earlier with like some of the automations going out, treating them like a new person. This is also going to make it easier to understand on the sales side of things that this is actually a warm lead. It's not a cold lead. We're going to work it a little bit different. Let's pull the notes from that account of what we learned the first time around, and let's talk about those pain points and things of why maybe it stalled out, so we can actually work this person in the best way possible to get them to get our service or our product. After we've done that, we're going to route back to the owner as a warm deal. So provided this isn't a situation where, this person has maybe a history of having these stalled or parked deals. I've seen that a time or two. We actually want to send this back to the person that worked it the first time. If they honestly worked it well, this person just kind of dropped off and we didn't have anything come of it. Okay, great. They're back. They know you. They remember your name. They actually liked working with you. They were pumped to be able to get a deal done, but for whatever reason it didn't. Awesome. Send it back to that person, and then we can move this back through the pipeline, hopefully closing this deal out. So these are the foundational items that we set up to be able to make sure that you have a shot at recovering that information. Like I said, the client that we're using for this use case, there was a bunch of information like this where it was hidden, people not really using it, no real automation set up for the lead assignment rules. It was really just stuff got put into Salesforce that had a few handful reps. Those people were really just in charge of doing that. They didn't have a lot of oversight from managers and things like that because they were in between systems. And so we found setting this up made it a whole lot easier for them to uncover these deals and eventually get them closed out in relatively quick time. So really, really suggest setting this up if you don't have it. Hopefully you found some other nuggets along the way of some of those notifications. Hope this was helpful. It's a little bit different. Like I say, felt like it's a little more personal, a little less kind of salesy going over to the YouTube side. If this is something helpful, you haven't had it set up before, feel free. There's another link in the newsletter. You can see how to work with us if you prefer us to come in and do this. Otherwise, this is a really good foundation you can set up yourself. Appreciate it. Thank you.